Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the new Will Smith movie Collateral Beauty. This one was directed by David Frankel, who made a film that I really enjoyed called Marley and Me. And those of you who are watching this have probably seen that film as well, and it's very good if you haven't seen that movie. But for this movie, Collateral Beauty, which I'm reviewing for you today, it's about a motivational speaker of a big company. Some sources online are saying he's a salesman, but I got more so a sense that he was a motivational speaker for this company. And he's played by Will Smith, and I think his name is Howard Inlet in this movie. And so he loses his daughter very early on. She was very young. Um, they talk about the movie, like what exactly happened to the daughter and stuff. And so this causes him to go through a rough time, and he doesn't really know how to cope with it. So as a result, he's still kind of on the payroll for this big company, but he's not showing up to work. He's not talking to people. He cut his landline off so nobody can call him at his home and stuff. And so this company's really starting to fail. They really need this guy there. He really is kind of the big motivation to make this company successful. And so what they do is Edward Norton, Kate Winslet, and Michael Pena play his coworkers at this company, and they decide to take action about it. They decide that, if Howard is really not going to show up to work, if he's not going to do his job, if this loss is going to really hurt his work performance this badly like it is, the company's going to fail, it's going to go under. And so what they did is they're basically taking action about it, and if they take action about it, this will either get Howard back to work, or the company will find a way to fire Howard so that way they can move forward with a better candidate for his position. And so what they do is to kind of hopefully get him to go one way or the other. They hire some stage performers who are supposed to represent love, time, and death. And they're played by Keira Knightley, who is Love, Jacob Latimore, who's I think a rapper in real life, I think, who is Time in the movie, and then Helen Mirren plays Death. And like I said, they're stage performers. And what Howard's been doing that they are starting to catch on with is he's writing these like random notes, kind of like how a kid would write letters to Santa Claus to love, time, and death. And he's doing that because that's kind of his way of coping with this loss, and him asking those great things in the universe, why they're doing this to him, why it's hurting him about love, it's hurting him about death, and it's hurting him about time. Because through his motivational speeches, that's kind of the three things he talks about as to how people come together and so forth. And so they get three people to kind of represent those three things. And this will either encourage Howard to go back to work to make him realize that without him at this company, it's going to go under. And that's ultimately what's going to get him back out into reality and so forth. And if that doesn't help him, then what they'll do is they have somebody recording what he's doing. And they're hoping that if it's as ridiculous as the situation could ask for, this will just show just kind of how mentally out there Howard is and how he's kind of not suitable for this position anymore. And so that would ultimately get him fired if that's the route that would happen with these stage performers and so forth. Um, so throughout the course of the film, we have to figure out, is Howard going to stay with the company? Is he going to go back? Are they going to fire him? What exactly is going to happen to him over the course of this movie? And I guess to go into, before going to positive and negatives, Naomie Harris is kind of this therapist character in the movie that helps him out, and that's going to help me out as I'm talking about my positives and negatives for this movie. So overall, Collateral Beauty, this is an okay film. I was really hoping to love it. I really liked the concept for this film. The trailers for this film really motivated me. They really felt like something that was going to be really special for a movie and so forth. And unfortunately, it just does not live up to that potential that well. So for my positives and negatives of Collateral Beauty, I think the story concept is very strong. I think this is a very strong concept for a film. It's a strong idea. Um, Concept-wise, I had no complaints. I thought this was a great concept for a movie. It just doesn't fully live up to its potential, unfortunately. Naomie Harris is in this film, and for those who don't know her, she played Moneypenny in the James Bond movies. Very good actress, obviously. And I thought her character and her performance in the movie were both very strong. You definitely got behind what she was doing, how she was helping Howard get through this rough time, since one-on-one therapy seemed to work better for him, better than this group circle thing that she had going for people and stuff. Her performance, I thought, was really what Collateral Beauty should have been. It really was about how, when times get rough, that we have to keep looking forward and so forth. And in a way, Love, Time, and Death is very much connected to how she shows up in the movie as well. So once again, everything about her character and her performance, if the rest of the film lived up to that, we really would have got a great film because her performance was very, very good in this movie. And I do like the film's messages on universal connections and how love, time, and death kind of do make us move forward and come together and so forth. So messages wise and about, the whole thing about universal connections, I thought all those things are very powerful in this movie. And like I was saying earlier, I think the message on, keep looking forward during the rough times, I thought was a very powerful message. And I once again liked how this film emphasized that point as well. And I thought this film had a very clever ending. I thought if the rest of the film kind of felt like the ending did, with its cleverness and how love, time, and death do connect the universe and so forth, I think the overall film would have been better. So ending wise, it wrapped itself up very well. I can't get into too much detail because that'd be spoiler territory, but I thought the way it ended was very clever. And I also thought the first act of this film was very good. I thought it did a good job with getting us kind of what the story was really about and stuff. So I thought the first act with kind of putting the pieces together, getting us into the story was fine. Unfortunately, when we got into the story, it just wasn't that great. But the story slightly got better again by the time we reached that third act to reach that clever ending that I thought was very good for a movie like this. Now, for my negatives of Collateral Beauty, there's a lot of really unorganized ideas in this movie. Just the ending alone is very different to the rest of the film. And once again, if the film had what the ending had, I think this would have been a better film. I think a supernatural approach would have been better for this movie. They tried to go for a realistic one. There's just so many great ideas here that are just not handled very well, that are very different from one another. And as a result, it's just a kind of a jumbleized huge collection of ideas that really don't know how to be organized with each other and so forth, and that's really too bad. Other negative I have with the movie is it goes for a realistic setup, and the setup for this movie, once we get into Act 2, the realistic setup thing I thought was really unnecessary. I think the whole incorporating love, time, and death thing would have been much better if they did more of a supernatural approach, once again, like I was talking about. The way they set things up really was not that great in this movie. And I also thought there wasn't a lot of interesting characters in this movie. Just characters I really could not feel too interested in, besides Naomie Harris's character and maybe sometimes Will Smith's character. I really was not too invested in a lot of these characters. I didn't feel as emotionally attached to them as I probably should have been. So I just needed more interesting characters in this film in order to really get into what the story was about. And overall, I know some people are really praising this right now in this movie as far as the positives go. But for me personally, I really wasn't too impressed with this. I really thought this was a weak performance from Will Smith. It's very dopey. He spends a lot of the time just frowning and looking sad and all that kind of stuff. And I understand he went through a hard time and all this, but it just got to the point where I felt like his character wasn't growing. And I think for a movie like this to work, your characters have to grow and they have to learn something and so forth. And his coworkers went through so much to make this love, time, and death thing work out. And it's just a very dopey performance from Will Smith, and he's done a lot better than this. Definitely not like an I Am Legend or a Hitch kind of movie for him. I thought those two films are really good with showing just how much range and performance that he has as an actor, how talented he is in those kind of roles. And unfortunately, Collateral Beauty will not join the ranks of those movies. There's also a really stupid plot device character in this movie that strictly exists just to make sure that certain elements of the plot work, and it's extremely lazy. All I can really say is it's a blonde-haired lady with an iPhone. That's really all I'm going to say about it without going into spoiler territory. It's very contrived. It's very stupid. You can definitely tell they were trying to figure out how to handle all this tough material at some points in the movie, and so they just throw this random character in to make it all work out. Very stupid, very much a plot device kind of character. Did not like it. And every once in a while, the film will try to have humor in it, and it really falls flat pretty badly, to be honest. So humorize, don't go into this expecting a comedy. The humor really does not work in the film when it tries to have a crack at comedy. But overall, Collateral Beauty, I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's an okay film. I think you could rent this one and not be too disappointed. I don't think it's worth seeing in the theater. If you really like the concept like I did, if you really were intrigued by it, maybe give it a shot at Redbox one day or something. But Collateral Beauty, 7.5 out of 10, not really a film I can recommend.